Chapter-13 Life with Sri Bhagavan. It is perhaps harder to visualize the divine man in the technique of daily living than in miracle or transfiguration. And for this, a description of the routine of life during the last years will be helpful. The incidents that are fitted into it are no more noteworthy than many that went before, just as the devotees referred to are no more outstanding than many who remain unmentioned. It is 1947 already. Just over 50 years have passed at Tiruvannamalai. With the onset of age and failing health, restrictions have been imposed, and Sri Bhagavan is no longer accessible privately and at all hours. He sleeps on the couch where he gives darshan, the blessing of his presence, during the day, but with closed doors now. At 5 o'clock the doors open, and early morning devotees enter quietly, prostrate themselves before him, and sit down on the black stone floor, worn smooth and shiny with use, many of them on small mats they have brought with them. Why did Sri Bhagavan, who was so modest, who insisted on equal treatment with the humblest, allow this prostration before him? Although humanly he refused all privileges, he recognized that adoration of the outwardly manifested Guru was helpful to sadhana, to spiritual progress. Not that outward forms of submission were sufficient. As he once said explicitly, "Men prostrate themselves before me, but I know who is submitted in his heart." A small group of Brahmins resident at the ashram sit near the head of the couch and intone the Vedas. One or two others who have walked from the town, a mile and a half away, join them. At the foot of the couch, incense sticks are lit, diffusing their subtle perfume through the air. If it is in the winter months, a brazier of burning charcoal stands beside the couch, a pathetic reminder of his failing vitality. Sometimes he warms his frail hands and thin, tapering fingers, those exquisitely beautiful hands, at the glow, and rubs a little warmth into his limbs. All sit quietly, mostly with eyes closed in meditation. A few minutes before 6, the chanting ends. All rise and stand as Sri Bhagavan raises himself with an effort from the couch, reaches out for the staff that the attendant places in his hand, and walks with slow steps to the door. It is not from weakness or fear of falling that he walks with the downcast gaze. One feels that it is an innate modesty. He leaves the hall by its north door, on the side of the hill, and passes slowly, leaning on his staff and a little bent, along the passage between the white-walled dining hall and office building. Then, skirting the men's guest house, to the bathroom beside the cowshed, farthest east of the ashram buildings. 2 attendants follow him, stocky, short, and dark, and wearing white dhotis down to the ankles, while he is tall and slim and golden-hued and clad only in a white loincloth. Only occasionally he looks up if some devotee approaches him, or to smile upon some small child. There is no way of describing the radiance of his smile. One who might appear a hardened businessman would leave Tiruvannamalai with a lilt in his heart from that smile. A simple woman said, "I don't understand the philosophy, but when he smiles at me, I feel safe, just like a child in its mother's arms." I had never yet seen him when I received a letter from my 5-year-old daughter, in which she wrote, "You will love Bhagavan. When he smiles, everyone must be so happy." Breakfast is at 7. After breakfast, Sri Bhagavan goes for a short walk and then returns to the hall. In the interval, it has been swept out and clean covers placed on the couch, some of them richly embroidered, being presents from devotees. All are spotlessly clean and very carefully folded, for the attendants know how observant he is and how every little detail will be noticed, whether it is remarked upon or not. By 8 o'clock, Sri Bhagavan is back in the hall, and the devotees begin to arrive. By 9, the hall is full. If you are a newcomer, you probably feel how intimate the hall is, how close you are to the master, for the entire space is only 40 feet by 15. It runs east and west with a door in each long side. That on the north, facing the hill, opens out to a tree-shaded square, with the dining hall running along its eastern side, and on its west side, the garden and dispensary. That on the south leads out to the temple, and beyond it the road, the side from which the devotees arrive. The couch is at the northeast of the hall. Beside it is a revolving bookcase containing the books most frequently in demand, and on it stands a clock, while another hangs on the wall beside the couch, both right to the minute. If any book is needed for reference, Sri Bhagavan will know just where it stands, on which shelf, and probably the very page of the passage to be referred to. Large bookcases with glass-paneled doors stand along the south wall. Most of the devotees sit in the body of the hall, facing Sri Bhagavan, that is, facing east, the women in front of him, down the northern half of the hall, and the men to his left. Only a few of the men sit alongside the couch, with their backs to the south wall and nearer to Sri Bhagavan than the others. A few years previously, it was the women who had this privilege, and then for some reason the positions were changed. It is the Hindu tradition for men and women to sit apart, and Sri Bhagavan approves of it, as the magnetism between them may disturb the greater spiritual magnetism. Again, the incense sticks are burning. Some there are now also who sit with eyes closed in meditation, but others relax and simply feast their eyes on Sri Bhagavan. The visitor sings songs of praise that he has composed. One who has been away and is returning offers a tribute of fruit at his feet, and then finds a place in the seated ranks before him. An attendant gives back a part of the offering as the grace or prasad of Sri Bhagavan. Something may be given to children who enter the hall, to monkeys who stand at the window near the couch or peer round the door, or to the peacocks, or the cow Lakshmi, if she pays a visit. The rest is taken later to the dining hall to be shared among the devotees. Sri Bhagavan accepts nothing for himself. There is an ineffable tenderness in his look. It is not only sympathy for the immediate troubles of his devotees, but for the whole vast burden of samsara, of the worldly human life. And yet, despite the tenderness, the lines of his face can show the sternness of one who has conquered and never compromised. This aspect of hardness is usually covered by a soft growth of white hair, for as a sannyasin, his head and face are shaved every full moon day. Many of the devotees regret it. The growth of white hair on the face and head so enhances the grace and gentleness of aspect but none presumes to mention it to him. His face is like the face of water, always changing, yet always the same. It is amazing how swiftly it moves from gentleness to rock-like grandeur, from laughter to compassion. So completely does each successive aspect live that one feels it is not one man's face, but the face of all mankind. Technically, Bhagavan may not be beautiful, for the features that he has are not regular, and yet the most beautiful face looks trivial beside him. Such reality is in his face that its impression sinks deep in the memory and abides when others fade. Even those who have seen him only for a short time or only in a photograph recall him to their mind's eye more vividly than those they know well. Indeed, it may be that the love, the grace, the wisdom, the deep understanding, the childlike innocence that shines from such a picture is a better starting point for meditation than any words. Around the couch, a couple of feet away from it, is a movable railing about 18 inches high. That caused a little controversy at first. The ashram management observed how Sri Bhagavan normally avoided being touched and drew back if any made to do so. Recollecting, moreover, how a misguided devotee had once broken a coconut and wanted to honor him by pouring the milk over his head, they decided that so much seclusion would be better. Many of the devotees, on the other hand, felt that it was placing a sort of barrier between them and Sri Bhagavan. The discussion as to whether he approved of this went on in front of him, but none presumed to ask him for a decision. Bhagavan sat unaffected. Some of the devotees, without rising from their places, talk with Sri Bhagavan about themselves or their friends, give news of absent devotees, ask doctrinal questions. One feels the homely atmosphere as of a great family. Perhaps someone has a private matter to report and goes up to the couch to speak to Sri Bhagavan in an undertone, or to hand him a paper on which he has written it out. It may be that he wants an answer, or that it is enough simply to inform Sri Bhagavan, and he has faith that all will be well. A mother brings a little child in, and he smiles at it more beautifully than a mother. A little girl brings her doll and makes it prostrate before the couch, and then shows it to Bhagavan, who takes it and looks at it. A young monkey slips in at the door and tries to grab a banana. The attendant chases it out, but there happens to be only one attendant present, so it runs around the end of the hall and in through the other door, and Sri Bhagavan whispers urgently to it, "Hurry, hurry, he'll be back soon." A wild-looking sadhu with matted locks and ochre robe stands with hands upraised before the couch. A prosperous townsman in European suit makes a decorous prostration and secures a front seat. His companion, not quite sure of his devotion, does not prostrate at all. A group of pundits sit near the couch, translating a Sanskrit work, and from time to time take it up to him to elucidate some point. A 3-year-old, not to be outdone, takes up his story of Little Bo Peep, and Sri Bhagavan takes that too, just as graciously, and looks through it with the same interest, but it is tattered, so he passes it to an attendant to bind and gives it back the next day neatly repaired. The attendant is painstaking in his work. He needs to be, because Sri Bhagavan himself is keen of eye and hand and will pass no slovenly work. The attendants feel that they enjoy the special grace of Sri Bhagavan. So do the pundits. So does the 3-year-old. One gradually perceives how the profound immediacy of response leads devotees utterly varied in mind and character to feel a special personal intimacy with the Master. Gradually also one perceives something of the skill and subtlety of Sri Bhagavan's guidance, or rather of the human manipulation of his guidance, for the guidance itself is invisible. All beings are open books to him. He casts a penetrating glance at this disciple or that to see how his meditation is progressing. Occasionally his eyes rest full upon one of them, transmitting the direct force of his grace. And yet all of this is kept as inconspicuous as possible. A glance may even be sidelong to avoid attention. A more steadfast look may be in the interval of reading a newspaper, or when the recipient himself is sitting with closed eyes and unaware. This may be to guard against the twofold danger of jealousy in other devotees and conceit in the one favored with his look. Special attention is often shown to a newcomer. To that the devotees have grown accustomed. Perhaps a smile will greet him every time he enters the hall, and he will be watched in meditation, encouraged with friendly remarks. And this may continue for a few days or weeks or even months, until the meditation has been kindled in his heart, or until he is bound by love to Sri Bhagavan. But such is human nature that the ego also has probably fed on the attention, and he has begun to ascribe it a superiority over the other devotees that he and Sri Bhagavan alone perceive. And then he will be ignored for a while, until a deeper understanding evokes a deeper response. Unfortunately, this does not always happen. Sometimes the pride in a fancied preeminence with Sri Bhagavan remains. At about 8:30, the newspapers are brought in to Sri Bhagavan, and unless any questions are being asked, he will open some and look through them, perhaps remarking on any item of interest, though never in a way that could be taken as a political opinion. Some of the papers are sent to the ashram itself. Some are ordered privately by one devotee or another and passed on to Sri Bhagavan first, just for the pleasure of reading a paper he has touched. One can see when it is privately owned paper because he will slip it carefully and deftly out of its wrapper and back again after reading, so that the owner shall receive it in the same condition that it arrived. From about 10 minutes to 10 till about 10 past, Sri Bhagavan used to walk on the hill. But during these last few years, his body is too infirm, and he just walks across the ashram ground. All rise as he leaves the hall, unless any are in deep meditation. During this recess, they gather and talk in little clusters, men and women together, for it is only while sitting in the hall that they are separate. Some read their newspapers, others get their mail from Raja, the keen, serviceable little postmaster, who knows everything about everybody. Sri Bhagavan re-enters, and if those who are sitting in the hall make to rise, he motions them to remain sitting, saying, "If you get up when I enter, you will have to get up for every person who enters." Once, during the hot months, an electric fan was put on the windowsill beside him. He ordered the attendant to switch it off, and when the latter persisted, he himself reached up and pulled out the plug. The devotees were just as hot. Why should he alone have a fan? Later, ceiling fans were installed, and all benefited alike. The mail is now brought to Sri Bhagavan. A letter addressed simply, the Maharshi, India. A packet of flower seeds from a devotee in America to sow in the ashram garden. Letters from devotees all over the world. Sri Bhagavan reads through each one carefully, even scrutinizing the address and postmark. If it is news from any devotee who has friends in the hall, he will tell them it. He himself does not answer letters. This expresses the standpoint of the jnani, the enlightened, not having relationships, not having a name to sign. Answers are written in the ashram office and submitted to him in the afternoon, when he will point out if there is any inappropriate item in them. If anything particular or personal is needed in the answer, he may indicate it. But on the whole, his teaching is so plain that a devotee easily learns to reiterate verbally. It is the grace behind the words that he alone can give. After the letters are disposed of, it may be that all sit silent, but there is no tension in the silence. It is vibrant with peace. Perhaps someone comes to take leave, some lady with tears in her eyes at having to go, and the luminous eyes of Bhagavan infuse love and strength. How can one describe those eyes? Looking into them, one feels that all the world's misery, all the struggles of one's past, all the problems of the mind, all of it falls away like a miasma from which one has been lifted into the calm reality of peace. There is no need for words. His grace stirs one's heart, and thus the outer guru turns one inwards to awareness of the guru within.